We're going to see how long you're going to sit down there.
We were just standing in the lobby, admiring the case.
Okay, it's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, June 26th. We'll call to order the City of Brainerd Personnel and Finance Committee, and we'll start with introductions.
Kara Terry, Ward 1.
Alderman at Large Kevin Stunek.
Tony Randy, Brainerd.
Connie Hillman. Connie Hillman, City Finance Director.
Go ahead, introduce yourselves.
Kelly Mashi, Weisenegger Engel.
Nate Olin, Weisenegger Angle Insurance.
Jesse Dean, City Engineer.
James Kronvik, Community Development Director.
Chris Schubert, HR Director.
And Gabe Johnson, Chair of the Committee. We have 7 items to come before us today. The first of which is the LMCIT premium renewal for March through February 2025. And I'll hand that to Connie.
All right, so Kelly and Nate are here from Weisenegger Engel to go over the renewal. I just want to stress that the city's insurance policy did not lapse, even though we're reviewing it now. It did renew on March 1st. It just took a little bit longer to assemble the renewal information. The city had budgeted for the 10-month period in 2024 about a 3.2% increase. The actual premium is a 5.5% increase with an overall 8.1% increase in the policy as a whole. I'll turn it over to Kelly and Nate.
Thank you. Please step up to the microphone. Make sure the green light's on there too.
Okay, Chairman Johnson and committee members, I am the licensed intermediary representing the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust, and our team of 10 at Weisenegger Engel oversees the details. With me is my colleague Kelly Mashi, who has been intricately involved in day-to-day details of policy changes, coverage, premium, et cetera, for the last decade. So I am going to turn it over to Kelly right now, but there are a couple of points we want to address before we adjourn our discussion with you.
Hi, I'm Kelly. Connie, if you want to go ahead and change it to the next screen where it's the renewal summary. High level, like Connie said, it's overall 8% increase. One of the things with the League of Minnesota Cities, as with normal insurance, you would receive prorated premiums for credits or debits. The League of Minnesota Cities does not do that, so we don't have a premium of what it would look like for any midterm changes. So we are up about 8%. Can you go to the next page, Connie? There we go. High level, we wrote down the dividends of what have been paid back since 2020, since the League is self-insured trust. They'll pay back any dividends back to their members. The unscheduled equipment rating basis, again, it's just used for rates, was up by $45,000. I also included BPU in here. Their unscheduled rate is up $37,000. Overall autos with the city, and that includes all the departments through the city, is down by 5. BPU is up by 8. Property limits were increased about 1.3 million, with BPU being up about 25.9 million. The cyber liability for first party cyber liability did decrease from 500,000 to 250,000. We are able to go ahead and get that back up to 500,000 if we are able to implement an awareness program, and the League of Minnesota Cities is able to help us implement that with you. I did allocate all of the premiums by department, and then I also separated it out from the city to BPU. So every area is being allocated for what their building contents, autos, and mobile equipment are. Connie, if you want to go to the next page. And the next page. These are just included coverages that are in the policy. One more, 2 more. We do have an excess umbrella that we always offer every year to do our diligence. It's to cover non-tort liability claims. This year it's coming in at $41,532. You can decide as a council if that's something you'd like to proceed with or not, but we do like to offer it every year. And then Connie, if you, yep, so this is the breakdown. It's really kind of hard to see, but it breaks it down by each coverage part along with by each department. That's what I have. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
Can you go back and just describe the tort part where we can make a decision on that piece, please?
Yeah, so the city of Brainerd has decided to not waive the state statute tort limits. So the most that you would pay is $500,000 for a liability claim that the city is found negligent with. If there is a non-tort claim, liability will drop down. So if there's like an employment practices liability claim, that's where that could step in and provide additional coverage.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Okay.
Just briefly, some additional commentary I think you would find informational from the League of Minnesota Cities. The insurance trust is very healthy. There's been a lot of talk about things going on in municipalities, from officer fatalities to dams breaking and a lot of things, but their balance sheet is very strong. You need to know that. And so for the benefit of the council members who aren't in the meeting, we do have an annual meeting with key stakeholders, Jesse, James, Chris, Connie included, and some others, every spring to go over everything that's moving parts in the city. Buildings change, vehicles change, I know requests for equipment to be added and so forth. And so we're on top of all of that, and all of that is reflected in your exposures. Also, let's see, we also attend the League of Minnesota Cities insurance training that's conducted in St. Cloud each year in the month of April. And actually, the OPU had a team down there to also do the insurance and the risk management training, and Chief Davis was down there as well. Probably the biggest, we had 4 of our staff down there to receive that training, and we're in regular contact and also visit the League's office for updates down in St. Paul. Probably the biggest thing I just wanted to reemphasize this was, I think, on page 2 or 3, Connie, was the emphasis this year on the League's cyber coverage. As you know, what's going on with cyber attacks all over, you do have $250,000 coverage for what's known as first party. First party affects things like the state's breach notification laws, communication with affected customers, providing credit monitoring, executing public relations or reputation management campaigns, and other recovery activities. The League has a person that would help any city with this, whether it's in-person training in hour segments of up to 30 employees at a time, or they have online modules where employees can self-learn and you can administer the awareness of these items. First-party damage examples that the League has paid on include someone maliciously destroying data, a hacker launching a denial of service attack against you, someone planting a virus, malware, or spyware on your computer hard drive, an employee accidentally destroys a database, a power surge wiped out a business server, computer hardware damage in a storm, or someone holds your computer damaged for ransom. There has been many examples where these costs have gone to municipalities for in excess of $250,000. So as your insurance advisor, I'd strongly encourage, whether you decide to proceed with the coverage or not, which you cannot now get the coverage for this year because we're in the middle of the year and you have not done employee awareness training. You could, if you do awareness training that the League offers, increase that coverage for next year. So whether you do the coverage or not, enhanced limits, I'd strongly encourage, for what we're seeing in today's culture, that this be sort of a mandatory practice for all city employees, city volunteers, and even if it hasn't been done, for elected officials.
Question on that, is there a cost to us, or does the League provide that at no fee?
They'll come in person and do it for free, or they will do online modules for free as well.
Okay.
I'd just like to add that we do have a training in-house for the city network people. It's called the I before no or something like that. And so Sean will shoot out emails that are cyber attacks, and if you click on them, then you have to do additional training. So we do have something on that side, but we don't have an official annual training set up, and BPU does not have that either, so we both need to have that training.
I agree.
Connie, does BPU have the email example? No?
It's currently 2 separate IT departments run entirely differently.
We can get
That's
the
something that I think we should talk about it all, because that was something that came up with during our renewal, is that, we have a certain stuff, but we need to have a comprehensive program in order to increase that liability coverage.
We'll ensure that gets coordinated with the League, and Connie and her team, they're great to work with.
Great.
Anything else?
No, not for me. Any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
you.
Thank you.
So the recommended action is to approve the insurance renewal from LMCIT for the period of March 1, 24 to February 28th, 25.
And I so move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks for coming. You guys can go back to work now. All right, next up is to accept the retirement of Street Maintenance 1, Michael Jensen. Chris?
Mike Jensen submitted his retirement notice last Friday, and his last day of work will be Friday, July 12th. The recommended action is a motion to accept his retirement with regret and effective July 12th, and to authorize his severance payout per the IUOE Local 49 Street Department Union contract. Further, to authorize staff to begin the hiring process to backfill the Maintenance 1 position.
I so move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Chris, are we doing any sort of planning for when folks retire? So kind of having an idea of when they're eligible, and then, what can't I think of the word, when you plan for when someone's leaving?
So it depends on the position. This is a Maintenance 1 position. There's Maintenance 1, 2, and 3 at the street department. Mike has been with us for about 3.5 years.
Okay.
So he isn't a long-term employee, but we definitely are going to miss his knowledge because of his public service for almost, I thought he said almost 40 years. So he's a very knowledgeable person. In some positions, we try to do more of a succession planning opportunity. My position as an example, that's why Brittany's here, those types of things, but we have not here. What I can tell you about the street department position is talking to the IUOE business rep, Todd Dijon. He feels that we are very competitive as far as our benefit package and wages, and he doesn't think we'll have any kind of problem filling this position.
Thank you.
Yeah, and IUOE does a good job of communicating to their members when there's opportunities around, so they're good at helping us. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is a request to authorization to backfill a police officer position.
At the last council meeting, the council approved a separation agreement for a police officer. We're requesting authorization to begin the hiring process to fill that vacant position. And by filling it, we would return back to our 27 sworn officers as was budgeted. So the recommended action is to authorize staff to begin the hiring process to fill the vacant police officer position.
And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item number 4, consider Central Business District Incentive Policy. James.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just kind of some background information. The EDA created some action steps and goals 2023 through 2024. One of those was to potentially look at other, right now we have the River to Rails Incentive District, look at other areas that could benefit from different economic development incentive policies. So with that, the EDA has been working on this for a number of months. And if you want to scroll down, Connie, to the very last page of not the memo, but the River to Rails District. We can point out where the existing River to Rails District is kind of confined to. So the River to Rails District within here goes from the river to 19th Street southeast, and then approximately Washington Street down to Oak Street. In this zoning district, $150,000 of building permit fees, valuation-wise, are waived. So if it's $1 million project, you'd minus $150,000 in valuation. There'd still be a permit fee for this. One of the bigger charges would be SAC and WAC fees being waived in this area. A good example is the Thrifty White project. So SAC and WAC is your sewer accessibility charges, water accessibility charges, is $3,300 per unit. So when you take 78 units of the Thrifty White project times the $3,300, it adds up quite a bit. Certainly an incentive for them to do a redevelopment project in the district. So the EDA took some feedback from Bladek and some of the comments from various businesses in the community are, you know, why is kind of everything given downtown? You know, should there be other opportunities for businesses in the city of Brainerd to also have some of these benefits? So the EDA looked at this and ultimately recommended because of the 210 project and some of the utility infrastructure improvements, going from be the western boundary to the eastern boundary of the city, essentially having the same incentive policy standards of the River to Rails District, and then including South 6th Street down to Buffalo Hills Lane East. So that would be the expansion of the River to Rails District. That was the EDA's recommendation. This was brought before the Brainerd Public Utilities Commission meeting yesterday. They were a bit hesitant on forgiveness of SAC and WAC in some of these expanded areas, as we do have an aging infrastructure, so they did have some concerns with that. They ultimately did not give a recommendation for approval or denial, but voiced some of their concerns with the expansion. So with that, I can answer any questions. I did provide within the document kind of some options for P&F to consider. One would be to recommend approval of the EDA proposed central business district map with the same incentives as the River to Rail District. I could also separate the map into zones where only SAC and WAC is waived in the original River to Rails District. There's also maybe should have been included in the River Trails District, kind of a 3-block area that goes east along Washington Street Northeast, which is part of our commercial corridor district. That could maybe be considered as maybe should have been part of the original River to Rails District. And then another option is to add or reduce the properties in the Central Business District map as presented. So I can answer any questions. It's ultimately a council decision. The EDA made a recommendation. Brainerd Public Utilities reviewed it and provided comments, but not a recommendation, but ultimately up to council for the fee charges.
Well, naturally, council fees are up to the council, but I'm more interested in, because I've talked to the interim public utilities director about this, and he's shared some hesitation on us decreasing the SAC and WAC fee, even though it's a city charge and not a public utility charge. It's, a shared system, if you will. Do we know how much SAC and WAC we have forgiven in the last 5 years? And how much we project that this would change going forward?
So I've reviewed it. It's usually about less than $10,000 per year, sometimes not at all. It's really mainly, I don't believe any businesses have really benefited from the SAC and WAC fee charges being waived in this district. It's some of our infill projects that have a duplex that was done. So it's really housing projects that have probably benefited from the SAC and WAC. Obviously, the big one would be Thrifty White, if that happens. There's commercial as well as residential in that one. So the other thing that the EDA recommended was for the Planning Commission to review it'd be the commercial corridor district to allow mixed-use development. So that kind of adds another component to, potentially large development. I know when I spoke with Jesse and Todd, we went over that potential of adding mixed use in that area, and believe because of the Washington Street reconstruction project, the system should be able to handle that mixed-use development in the commercial corridor district. But again, there hasn't been any large SAC and WAC fees waived in this district.
So there's a number of salons that have moved in. I mean, there's many more sinks downtown Brainerd today than there were in 2019. So those were some charges that were waived, right?
I believe there may have been some charges in there. It really talks about how many fixtures are added versus how many non-fixtures are added. I think maybe in 2019 there were a few salons. I know we got a lot more reviews for those. For instance, the Starbucks project that probably is just outside the River to Rails district. In that instance, I believe 2 to 3 homes were removed in there. So that property, for instance, keeps those credits for SAC and WAC. So when a new business comes in, they're not paying what the full SAC and WAC would be for something like that. They get the credits saved on the property from what was removed. So that kind of plays into certain things as well.
So in your opinion, over the last 5 years, it's $10,000 a year at most in SAC and WAC fees that we've...
That's correct.
Okay.
The largest one that we received for SAC and WAC has been outside the city, and that's been Dunmeyer's. That was, I think, about $40,000 to $45,000, but that would be technically outside of the proposed district because they're not within the city limits of Brainerd.
They paid their SAC and WAC?
Yep.
Oh, that's good. Glad to hear that. Any other comments or questions?
So, Mr. Chair, I will move the first choice to approve. Oh, it is on. I approve the first choice, recommend approval of the EDA proposed central business district map with the same incentives at the River to Rail District.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks, James. Next.
Can I
up
add one thing?
Oh, absolutely.
So with that, that we're really looking for approval or direction to move forward. So what staff would do at the next meeting then is bring an actual resolution and kind of more refined map for city council for the final approval.
Excellent, thank you. Item number 5, discuss use of vacant building registration fees.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is something that was asked for from council at the last meeting. City council conducted the first reading of the vacant building registry, which would impose a $7,000 fee for properties that have property maintenance issues and are both vacant. Staff in the first year is not really anticipating probably collecting many of these fees. The people that are in contact with the city would probably sign up for some type of restoration plan, and then the ones that are ignoring the city, those would probably then end up being assessed to the property. But, 1 or 2 years down the road may end up, seeing some collections. Some of it could be through tax assessments and then somebody purchasing the new property. It could be potential options, or somebody that wants to continue working on their property and pay the $7,000 fee. So if a separate account was created for this purpose, it could be used for purchasing blighted properties, tearing down blighted properties. So I think that would be a potential good use of the funds. Again, probably won't see a lot of funds for the first couple of years as this program's getting underway, but I think something that staff recommends setting up. And that's really contingent upon city council approval of proposed ordinance 1569.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my comments may have been misunderstood at the council meeting, where I don't want to start spending money right now in hopes of it coming in, but I think we should have a plan in place for if money does come in, that we know what we're going to do with it. I like planning. So I think that's a good recommendation, create a separate fund and just have the money setting aside, and then once there becomes a balance there where we can make an impact, do that. So the motion I usually look for is just to have Connie set up a separate fund number for the vacant building registration fees.
I wondered too if we could use an existing, city economic improvement fund that we already have and just create a separate line item in there to track the registry stuff that would roll over.
Direct Connie to create a process to track this money.
I make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right. Thanks, Connie. Thanks, James. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item number 6, approve draft policy on requests for city-owned parcels. James, Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the last meeting, the city council asked staff to draft up a policy in regards to the discussion for requests on city-owned parcels. So before you is a draft of that policy. It reflects most of the discussion there. So essentially what the policy does is, as we get a request from somebody regarding one of the city-owned parcels, we get the information of the requester, the property information, their intended use, and any other information. Go get an appraisal, present the appraisal, a recommendation to the city council, get some direction from the city council, and provide that direction to the requester, and then go from there. With that, I take any other questions regarding the policy.
Any questions?
So I'll move approval of,
Of that.
adoption of the attached policy on requests for city-owned parcels.
And I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up, item 7, consider amending number of temporary licenses or authorized refund of fee. Connie.
So currently, our temporary license say that it's gonna be $135 per day. We cannot issue it for more than 3 consecutive days, and they shall not have more than 6 temporary licenses per calendar year. So in essence, an organization in the city can have a temporary on-sale liquor license for a total of 18 days in the city. However, state statute says that they can only have it for 12 days. It can be in any combination. It can be a 2, a 3, a 4, 6, whatever, but they can only issue it for 12 days. So our city code conflicts with the state statute. And Lakes Area Music Festival submitted for 7 one-day temporary liquor license. They have paid for all 7 days. Since 7 events are not allowed, in the city, we would have to refund part of the $130 fee, and it can only be refunded if it's authorized by council. So some options is to direct staff to amend our city code to match the state statute. We can amend the city code per council's direction to be more restrictive than state statute, but yet to be in compliance. And if the council does not want to allow more than 6 licenses per year for an organization, authorize staff to refund the $5 to the Lakes Area Music Festival. If we feel that if we do amend the city code, that we could get it done in time for the last event for the Lakes Music Festival, that they would be in compliance with the change of the ordinance for all 7 events this year. Staff's recommendation would be to direct staff to amend the city code to match the state statute, allowing for an organization to hold a temporary on-sale liquor license for 12 days within a 12-month period.
I'll make that motion. When is your turn?
That's okay, that's okay. I'll
Well,
second
we're gonna
that.
get her buttoned up before Monday night.
We don't take minutes on this, so it's okay.
Okay, any questions or comments on the motion?
It probably was
I
yours.
was waiting for the flashcards.
Sorry.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Anything else to come before the committee? I guess we have a meeting date coming up,
It will
Connie?
be July 10th at 11 a.m.
July 10th at 11 a.m., and we don't need to schedule any other meetings on July 11th, 10th?
that I know of.
How long is our meeting tonight?
It should be less than an hour, I'm guessing, if even that.
Well, if that implies it could go over that.
No, it could go less than.
Yeah, let's do that.
Will our interviews overlap with PNF?
Well, I'm hoping that it will be okay.
Okay,
We may need to excuse ourselves for each interview if we have to. Our interviews start, we're asking the panel to be there at 11:15.
yeah.
And our first
I fully intend to be done by 11:15. And with that, we're adjourned.